I'm glad the Cowboy Bebop live action was terrible, because then I went to watch the anime again and it was awesome.
Yeah, I heard about that because Brian was saying that he wanted to watch it, and that maybe we should watch it.
Yeah, the actual anime is really good. It's really boring, but
I think I tried watching it one time with you, and it was boring. I did find it boring. I'm sorry.
But you got to give it a go. Like you have
Yeah.
to like just kind of get into the. If it's like jazz, it's like a jazz anime because of the soundtrack's jazz, and jazz is really boring. But when you kind of get into the swing and mood of it, it's like, okay, yeah, I could exist in this anime forever. And the more I watch it, the more I like it.
I think you did try to show it me once, but I think our friend was round and we were both quite drunk, and then it got to a kind of like a low bit where we were watching this, but we were kind of hungover, and I don't think it was like the right mood, and I don't think I was in the right mindset for appreciating anything. So that probably had something to do with it. You not liking it.
As well, you should never watch anything hungover.
No, that is very true. Welcome back into Journey into the Strange. I am Caz, and this man drinking out of a bottle is...
Wow.
I realised I asked that at the wrong point. I'll do that again, just in case.
No, we got it.
Okay. Don't worry about taking a second take.
This is a one-take podcast.
Okay, is it though?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. If you listen to the edit, I'm not sure that would be true. The edit does a world of good for this podcast.
It'll be a one-take edited podcast.
I mean, that is true. That is true. No lies there.
This is a podcast where we look at anything from the strange to the occult to the spiritual to the philosophical, and we research it and try and bring you some feedback.
Yeah, we kind of research these things so you don't have to.
And it's worth noting we're recording in the evening today, so that might be different from the morning.
Maybe.
Like, I don't do things in the evening if I'm not drinking, but I guess I am drinking, so it's fine.
I mean, yeah, it's different because we did have a weekend plan for it like last time, but then like things got in the way. So now we're recording of an evening weekday, which is different. So we'll see what kind of different energy that brings to the podcast.
Yeah, we both got work tomorrow, so a small sense of dread might be lingering over this podcast.
It might be. It might be indeed.
And today's topic was tarot cards.
Yes.
We both went away and did a fair bit of research. I understood none of mine, and none of it was helpful.
I gotta say, it is a very abstract subject. Ralph, before you did any research into tarot cards, what did you think it was? What did you think the idea of tarot card was?
I thought it was like fortune telling with cards. Also, if you watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, like season 3, every single one of the villains, it has a tarot card, so I knew them from that. And I was like, I wonder if that will tie in until I didn't. And Buffy the Vampire Slayer mentions tarot cards a fair bit. And in One Piece, there's a villain who uses tarot cards, and yeah.
So basically just like kind of anime and popular culture.
And Buffy.
Yeah, I'd say mine was probably the same, actually. Like, I didn't really know much about tarot cards. I did actually think at first that it was a little bit of a scam. And I was thinking like, oh, well, it's just people who just take cards and then they all mean the same thing anyway. It's just the way you spin them, which I gotta say, after studying tarot cards, I have fallen in love with them. I love tarot cards now. And that is something I never thought that I would hear myself say. Like, honestly, I have never really been much of a believer of anything. So this is super interesting for me that I found something that resonates with me so strongly.
That's awesome. Like I said to you off air, you might have, I'll let your passion carry us through from this one. Because while I've come to the conclusion they're not a scam, they can make you become God, I think, if any of my research was right, or the path of I don't know, we'll talk about this in a bit. But I'm so confused. When we finish this, I want you to send me your books, which sounds simpler.
Yeah, I'm going to say mine they weren't super, yours genuinely sound like grimoires and kind of ancient texts.
Is even what I was looking for. All I did to get mine was typing in beginner's book on tarot cards in Reddit.
It sounds like you got not that.
No, I don't know what the fuck they think beginners are.
Well, I'll read out my sources just here. I did read a couple of books, but I mainly got a lot of my research actually from a YouTube series that someone called Kellyanne Maddox did. This was years ago. I think she did it back in like, I don't know, at least 10 years ago. It was like YouTube when it was like old YouTube. And I felt like I was diving into a piece of YouTube history by looking at it because it was like so low quality, but also the information she gives in it is fantastic.
It's
Can't fault it at all.
I wonder if it was so old that it was before dislike button and now you're watching it now and there's no dislike button.
No, because it's genuinely like actually really good content. And also she still gets comments on it, like, you know, of this week saying like, oh, fantastic series, really learned a lot from it. And I did. I learned a lot from it. So Kellyanne Maddox's trainee tarot course, if you want to research into that. I also read Kitchen Table Tarot by Melissa Sonova, and also Hardworking Tarot, Spiritual Guidance and Practical Advice from the Card by Lisa Robinson, and that was very good as well. So yeah, kind of wide array, I guess, of books, but none of them so in depth as I think the ones that you read, Ralph.
Yeah, so I read The Pictorial Key to Tarot by Robert Ryder Smith, and I read Golden Dawn Ritual Tarot by Chick Cicero and Sandra Tabatha Cicero, who are married.
Oh, right.
Not just a weird coincidence.
I was going to say that. What a second name to have.
Yes.
Coincidentally.
And I also read History of Tarot by Robert Place.
Very cool. I was going to say, should I light a candle?
Yeah, make it feel spooky.
Oh, fuck. Well, we lost all of that.
Oh, I think that's fine.
God damn it.
You guys missed us lighting a candle.
I lit a candle. I pointed out my crystals. I said we could sage the room if Ralph liked. He declined. You're all caught up.
Yep, yeah. And then I was going to go on about, because of like the whole chaos magic thing, like part of the training to like reach a Gnostic state is staring at a candle for ages. So I bought myself one black candle and I just spend like 5-10 minutes a day staring at it. I think my mum thinks I'm going slowly insane. She's like, why do you have a black candle in your room with a black candle out? I'm like, yeah.
No reason.
Yeah, I don't just stare at it for 20 minutes trying to reach a state where I can talk to angels.
That's not what I do.
But
Dude, so just on that, before we get into tarot, are you still practicing chaos magic?
I wouldn't even say I started by the time we did the last podcast. I just read like a book about it.
And you're staring into a candle.
But now I've started to, because I was like, oh, I don't know, might as well. I've got nothing better to do. I was watching Netflix and I was like, I am so fucking bored. I might as well try and like become magic.
I love that. Like, I've got nothing else to do. Might as well become a magician.
Yep. And also I got paid, so I was like, I can buy myself a candle and I can buy myself a candle holder. And then I was like, oh, that's about my spending money for the month.
Go all out.
But my personal trainer's moving, so I can stop giving him £100 a month.
Oh, man.
And now I'm going to be able to spend all my money on weird magical crap.
Yay. Oh, that sucks he's moving away then.
Yeah, I know. But it's fine.
People got to do what they got to do.
Yeah. He's moving to Bristol, so I can't blame him for wanting to move to Bristol from Fleet.
Bristol's cool.
Yeah. It's got like a scene to it.
Yes, definitely.
But it doesn't have quite as many scary bits as London.
That's true.
So I think of it as like a posh London.
I like Bristol.
To circle back round, we were talking about why you fell in love with tarot cards.
Oh, yes.
So, and what we thought they were. You thought they were a scam and you fell in love with them. So the next question would be, so what caused you to fall in love with them?
Well, I think it kind of harkens back to our Chaos Magic episode, because I really enjoyed the idea of Chaos Magic, but I never had an experience, you know? Like, I never truly, I guess, fully believed in it, even though consciously I do believe in it, because I've read everything about it and I know the logic inside of it. It was more like I just didn't have that experience. So it was very sort of like bookish to me, I guess. As soon as I started using tarot cards, I had experiences. I had cards that would say a very, very direct message. I felt like the cards were very much speaking to me. Like I had a connection with the cards, and it's something I've really never felt before. So it's something that I absolutely fell in love with, because not only have I done readings on myself that have come up with many, many different sort of true meanings and messages, but I've also done it on my friends as well, and they've come back pretty positive, reinforced messages as well. So it's all working. I just feel like there's something about it, you know. I also feel that there's there's a certain amount of, I guess I keep hearing the terminology, spicy psychology.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've heard of that.
I have not.
I hear it quite a lot. I've heard it more on TikTok than anything, but it's more about how it's sort of like magic and witchy and all these things, but it's actually more psychological to do with your mind, and it's more like an outlet to it, and it actually, although you believe it's magic, it's actually psychology. So it's interesting. That's an interesting interlocking part to it, I suppose. And I like the idea of it being a tool, so that a tool into looking into your subconscious and actually having these ideas and having these ways to look at things in a different light. I guess I should sort of like go into that and explain a little bit more in the future in this episode about that, because I feel like I'm talking like everyone knows what I mean.
Well, now would be a good time to do that.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll start by saying that from the tool aspect, I think it's a great way of being able to look at a situation in a different light. So you'll draw some cards with a certain situation in mind, and then you'll be able to look at that situation, not from within your own head, but from the idea of the cards. So the idea of the cards might suggest something that you've never even thought of before, or it could be something that you've never had a realization about, or it might be just you looking at the situation from a completely different angle. And just by doing that, you're unlocking a part of your brain that says, oh, what if I tried thinking about that situation in this way instead? And I feel like that is a really powerful tool.
Makes sense to me. I'll go to like I don't think I said too much. Like, I think I was kind of joking about what my interpretation of the cards is. But I think I came away with, from what I understood, a similar thing in the sense that it's like, this is a good way. It's not telling the future. It's more giving a different insight into your mind and allowing you to kind of clarify those thoughts through the cards a little bit.
Yeah, I totally get that. And also, even if it solidifies what you think, it also allows you to have like another window, or almost like someone, like a friend, putting their hand on your shoulder going like, yeah, you're right, trust your intuition.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, again, so powerful with the cards, because most of it is to do with your intuition and how you're interpreting these things, and then also how you know them to be in the first place.
Yeah.
So if you have a certain situation, like a bad relationship or something, you may be trying to block out the fact that it is a bad relationship and actually only focus on the good things, when really deep down you know that you're in a bad spot. And the cards may reinforce that to you. They may go, oh, actually, yeah, you are in a bad spot, and maybe you should get out of it. And then actually, by having that second person almost there telling you that, you actually start to consider your situation. Like, oh yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe I should get out of this spot. Maybe I'm not as safe as I think I am.
Yeah. It's weird. Like, I used to go to therapy, and it's weird how many there's like these things in therapy that you do that seem ridiculous, like speak to the empty chair like you speak to your father, and like there's a little bit of you that's like, oh, this is stupid. But like, when you think about it, like the cards could be used as a therapeutical tool like anything else. It's just like, this is a tool to give you a further insight of your mind, and kind of like that whole chaos magic thing of like reaching a Gnostic state where you bypass the consciousness to interacting with your subconscious. It's like your subconscious will, like intuition, subconscious, whatever you want to call it, they'll interact with the cards because there's something about the symbology and the way they are that allows that to happen, that allows you to like be guided by your intuition more than your like logical mind.
Yeah. And also I feel like you can do that, but then also your logical mind might be pushing one way or the other, and also your intuition might be pushing one way or the other. Like thinking, again, if you know something to be true, but you're not listening to yourself, it's a good opportunity to sort of reflect on your actions and reflect on yourself. The deck I got, which is sitting in front of me, which is called the Lightseer's Tarot, by Chris Ann.
Yeah, I wanted to flip through that. We'll do that off air.
Oh, no, you can flip for it. Here you go. Or the deck.
Oh, the deck. But I'll do that later. Unless
Okay.
you don't want someone touching your deck.
No, that's fine. That's the thing. Is I'm glad you know about that as well. It's like, oh, can I touch your deck? Can I touch your deck, please?
Yeah, make sure you're starting the E on that.
Yeah. Deck.
Anyway.
I love this deck. It's beautiful. There are so many. It's just artwork basically. The artwork is just insane, but it's also just like such a friendly, happy deck. Like there's so much lovely imagery in there. Like even the cards that are meant to be like, disturbing cards are actually not.
What's the death card look on it?
Oh, I will show you.
Or the devil card.
Both are beautiful. I gotta say, I have to flip it. Oh, there's a devil. Came up pretty quickly. He's hot.
He is. He looks like a bit like Chris Angel, that really likes cheesy magician. That.
You just said two things which I did not say.
Like a shock magician in America called Chris Angel, I think.
Oh.
And he had like black hair and all his like. He was like David Blaine, but like if he was like metal. And edgy, but like fucking 90s, like early 2000s metal, so really cheesy. And he'd do like an extreme magic trick, which is just a card, like a card trick, but they'd have like a little metal like guitar solo where it's like underneath it, and it was awful.
This sounds amazing. I feel like I need to see this. It sounds kind of incredible. There's stuff.
Oh, that one's fucking awesome.
Yeah. I should probably describe these cards since this is an audio medium and people don't have video.
We should really set up an Instagram after this episode and then post some pictures of our favourite cards.
I actually took a couple pictures in the lead up to this. One of my tarot journal, which again is sitting in front of me, and that is fucking beautiful as well. But also of a reading I did for my friend, which I'll get into later. But yeah, so the devil is a very handsome looking guy. He's kind of got like dead eyes, I suppose, got black hair sort of spinning everywhere. He's offering a hand out, but the hand is actually puppeteering this guy in a hoodie.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even notice that. But...
Yeah, he looks like, I can help you, but actually, like, he's got this guy on strings. So that's very cool. He's also got some sort of like pentacle? No.
Pentagram.
Pentagram. Is that a pentagram? No, it doesn't look like a pentagram.
No, it doesn't.
Sort of, I don't know. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides.
Yeah.
Points? I don't know.
But a pentagram, I don't know. It has some kind of pentagram looking thing.
Tattooed on
Did it
his
say
chest,
anything about like the symbology of it in the booklet?
Of the card itself, of the devil?
Oh, I more meant like what of the pentagram.
Oh, no, it didn't. No, I mean, there's so much imagery within the cards. That's something I discovered a lot from Kitchen Table Tarot, is that I think she was using the deck that you use, actually.
Yeah, that's why I got that one, because it's like the most... I actually bought myself 2 decks because I got myself like the most common, and then I got myself one that I liked the look of a little bit more.
Yeah, so what is that, the Rider?
Yeah, that's the Rider Weight one, which
Rider
is
Weight.
Yeah, the most common and like most used and like kind of the basis for like a lot of the modern ones. So it's like, yeah, it'd be good to learn about that one. Do not try and read this book on it. It is unreadable.
You read it, so it can be unreadable.
Yeah, I read it over the course of a month though. And I was like, I understood none of this. It's mostly just him. I should have looked at when it was read. That was stupid of me. Written, I mean. But like, it was mostly just him being like, oh, I don't like this author's interpretation of the tarot cards. This is wrong. This is wrong. Oh, this was kind of right, but I think this is wrong. And he also spells shown as Shewn, so Shewn for some reason. I'm like, even if I know this wasn't written later than the 1800s, and I know they still said shown at that time.
Shewn.
Yeah. So every time I read that,
and
I was just like, I don't understand. Why won't you spell it right?
That's very strange. Interesting. It's like someone saying salmon.
Yeah, exactly. Stupid. Anyway.
But yes, that is the deck that table. I cannot say that. Kitchen Table Tarot is based off of, and she looks into the interpretation of the imagery on the cards, and if there was water in the card, it means there was motion attached around that card. She often looks at the people and what they are saying, and who they are looking at, and who they are directed at. She also talks about say the cups, like all of the cups, and in a reversal sense, if the cups they're turned upside down, then all the water falls out of the cups. Type thing. It's very visual interpretation, which is quite nice. I like the Lightseers deck as well, because it takes a lot of those elements, but it really it takes an artistic spin on each of those things. again, with the devil, like, I believe in the Weight Rider, or Rider Waite, keep saying it the wrong way around. In the Rider Waite deck, the devil it has people who are in chains type thing, but then this interpretation has the devil holding the strings of the puppet, who obviously looks like some sort of tortured soul. So there are sort of elements of that tarot, the original, sort of like spilling forward into the Lightseers deck, and I imagine that is the case with a lot of other decks. Just for like the Death card here, it's very different, I think, from the sort of traditional Grim Reaper that you would see, because this guy has a colourful background, he has a scythe, and he's dressed in a cowl, but his face is completely blanked out by the scene of a kind of burning star over the sort of silhouetted trees. So it's very beautiful deck, gotta say. That the art in it is very special. But yeah, it's such a great deck, and I love using it. I really feel connected with it when using it, and I know that feels like such an airy fairy thing to say, and I don't think before we even started this podcast that I would like feel that I would have said any of these things.
No, I have to admit, with the two I bought, like, you know me, I don't always take like the best care of my stuff. Like, my DVDs will be strewn about everywhere, everything I own.
I was going to say, that doesn't sound like you. I was like, oh wait, I see, you're being sarcastic.
Yeah, everything's like everywhere. I don't own any new clothes or whatever, everything's ripped. But like, before I had this weird, like, when I first picked up the cards, I had like this weird sense of like, no, there's an odd power to these, like, it's stupid, but like, if I was going to flip through them after using the toilet, I'd actually like I always make sure I wash my hands, but you know what I mean? Like, or like, a better example would be like, if I had something sticky, I'd be like, I'm not going to touch these while my hands are all sticky. I'm going to go wash my hands if like I've been eating like greasy stuff or like stuff like that.
Yeah, like it's that they need to be treated with like respect.
Yeah.
And because when I've taken them to my friend's house, because I did a reading at my friend's house, I kept them in my bag, and like just in my handbag, in the box that they came in with their little book, and I thought to myself, I woke up the next morning and I'd left them in my bag, and I was like, oh no, I shouldn't leave them at the bottom of my handbag. Like, that's so mean. Like, so I took them out and I like shuffled them, and I put them back in their box, and I put them on top of my crystals on top of the box. You know, so it's like, I wouldn't have even seen myself as someone who would do any of this kind of shit before. But I do agree, like, they do hold some kind of special power to them. I think at least the energy is there.
Yeah.
And I feel like these days I'm believing more in energy and positive energy, and it kind of, I guess, sort of harkens back to the law of attraction as well, which I know is one of the things that we said about like doing an episode on, is the law of attraction and the law of assumption. But yes, no, it's interesting that I feel like they do hold energy and hold power, and they need to be treated with respect. And also, it's beautiful. I only want to get them sticky.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's really interesting. So you said that you did a couple of readings yourself.
I did.
Because there's quite a few different types of ways of reading. What ones did you do, and like, how did you go about doing them?
So I kind of experimented with a lot of different ways of doing them. I'm going to say my favourite is still just a general free card draw.
Yeah.
It's, because I know you can do a lot with the free card draw, instead of just drawing free cards like I do, and then it's telling the story and it plays out in front of you. There are different ways of doing the free card drawers, and you can assign different meanings to each card. So you can say like past, present, future, which is what I have used a lot as well as past.
Yeah, when I was like experimenting, that's the one I played around with a lot.
I like that. But like the thing is with like past, present, future, or like there's one which is action, challenge, and resolution, I think.
Also, wasn't there one that was like mind, spirit, and body or
That's
something?
it, mind, spirit, body. There's the maiden, the crone, and what's the other one?
I have no idea.
I don't know. You know, it's like the three witches, like the maiden, the something, and the crone.
No idea.
No.
I swear it's like an Natalia Pratchett book.
Yes, it is. It definitely is. I know you know it. I know it too. I just can't get it to my mind.
Because I know like the Celtic one was really popular with like 10 cards and like one was crossing over one.
That's it, Celtic Cross. Yeah, that's a very, again, that's like a kind of general spread. I haven't done that one. There's actually one that Kellyanne Maddox, the person who I did the YouTube tutorials off of, she has a sort of hand-worked, like she's sort of come up with it herself, a general spread reading. That I haven't done actually, and I really would quite like to because it was quite, I like the way that she did it. But yeah, with the idea of the sort of general readings is that you have something that represents, so like your friends, your family, the challenges, your hopes, your dreams, your desperation, you know, like all these different things, and then each card attributes to that particular position. That position, it means that particular trait, I suppose. I gotta say I experimented a lot, and I do like the general free card, which is just, for me, just putting 3 cards on the table without any meaning or association with them, and then trying to tell the story with those 3 cards.
Yeah.
Which I quite like, because I personally feel like it gives you a lot of creativity. Like you can actually, that you're not locked down by saying, well, this is your past, and this is your present, and this is your future. It's like these all tell a story.
Yeah.
And it could harken back to your past or be talking about the future, but it's not locked down in any way.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a simplistic way of looking at it, and maybe it's because I haven't been doing the cards very long that it feels like, you know, that's my interpretation of it. But I feel like that's my intuition talking there.
Yeah, which I think is fine. I also think like tarot cards would definitely be something I want to come back to within like a year of doing this podcast.
Yes.
And like see if we like keep, because I want to look into them more because I found my research so confusing and so in detail, which I would like to like spend a long time trying to like parcel out and fully understand. But I'd like in a year I'd like to come back to it and be like, hey, here's how we've like changed using them. Here's how like we've tried new stuff. Here's how they've like worked.
Yeah. I totally agree.
But yeah, I was just playing around with the 3-card one myself. But
yeah.
Also,
it's good
I feel like that whenever you like see them in TV shows or movies, that's the one that like other people do probably because it's like simpler than being like, here's fucking 10 cards.
Yeah.
Here's what this one means and this one means.
This one crosses over this
Yeah.
one. Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's kind of easier to concentrate on it is the 3 cards as well. When I did do one, however, I think I've written it in my tarot journal, which I'll flick forever. I think I wrote quite a lot on it, and there was 2 really interesting things that came out from this particular reading. Oh, here it is.
You made a lot of notes.
Yeah, this page is actually pretty full on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this page, it was basically like, oh god, I've written it all down. Like the first card is you. Then your second is your deepest desire. Then your third is your ultimate fear. Your fourth is what your dream life looks like. The 5th is what holds you back. The 6th is material desires. The 7th is emotional desires. The 8th is what drives you. The 9 is what inspires you. And the 10th is your passion. So like it was a whole big spread, very much general reading on your kind of life and present and future. But yeah, so I pulled all these cards out. And one that really surprised me, and one that I don't fully understand to this day, was probably what holds you back. And I drew the sun, which is obviously meant to be a very hopeful card, like success, like glorious success, and following through your desires and living in the moment and being, you know, sort of just great, overwhelming success. And I was like, how is that what holds me back? And it wasn't even in reverse as well. It was the upright meaning of the card. We should probably talk about reversals in a minute as well, just to sort of go over what those are. But yeah, no, I just thought that was a very interesting like reading, and it made me think, what does hold me back? And I was thinking, is it because when you reach that point, that celebration of like, wow, you've done everything, like, what then? Like, is that what holds me back? Is the fact that, you know, sitting in complacency, you know, like sitting in celebration, is that what holds you back? Or is it by being too, I guess, like, too celebratory of yourself, like, too self-obsessed, too, like, happy in the moment? Does that hold you back? Because you're not actually looking at, like, the more sad, morose side of things? And is that too much of a good thing?
Or are you holding yourself back being like, I could be happier, but I know that would annoy people because people don't like someone being happy or content with parts of their life, so I'm holding myself back by being like,
That's a good
don't like this.
Yeah.
So
Possibly.
yeah, like, or like if something's going well, like you don't want to like. Because I know I'm such a cunt for this. Like I hate being around people who are happy. Like I just want to be around people who are miserable, so I don't feel bad about myself. But like I think that's a fairly common thing about people. But maybe there's like a thing that you could be happy about, but you're like, no, this is rubbish. I'm not proud of this because like you don't want to bum people out.
I guess it could be that as well. Or one idea is just what you've been talking about right now. That just occurred to me. Potentially imposter syndrome.
Yep.
When you think, oh yeah, it's all amazing, but yeah, you're actually like, yeah, no, I'm not that great type thing.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, it was a very good reading. But there's something about this reading, and actually this was one of the readings that really made me sort of believe in tarot. And I'm gonna get like pretty real here at the moment, but my mum passed away earlier in the year, only a few months ago, and obviously that's been like fucking difficult, as you imagine. I'm really close with my mum. So I did this big reading, and I got, all of the 10 cards out, and then the first one that I drew, and that's what you are meant to be, like that is you in this situation. And I pulled the King of Cups. And I got like that card, it's a very like emotionally stable card. Like it says that you sort of like rule your own kingdom. You're not too over emotional. You know how to control your emotions, but it doesn't mean that you stop them in any way. I quite like that card. Anyway, so I shuffled the deck like really well, and I like to do this thing where like, I just shuffle it throughout the day. Like when I'm bored or waiting for something to load, or I'm in a meeting or whatever, I'm just shuffling the cards just because I like doing that, and it's just something to do with your hands and. I don't know, I just love shuffling cards, and that's something that I've learned about myself through this.
You can pretend you're Job in Arrested Development.
Yeah, that's it. Yes, so I'm shuffling cards. I shuffle the cards really well, so I'm just doing this throughout the day. And then my question to the cards that evening was, what do I need to do to heal? And that was obviously like from mum, like what do I need to do? Do I need to go to therapy? Like what do I need to do to get through this stage of my life? And then even though I've been shuffling all of the cards all day, I put the cards down, asked the question, took out the first card. It was the King of Cups again. And I just broke down crying, because that for me was to say, you don't need to do anything. Like, you are okay as you are. Like, this is going to hurt, but it's fine because you are the King of Cups. And it's just that I drew that twice on the same day.
Yeah.
It was to me very crazy that that sort of thing happened, and it really did actually, it was a moment for me. It really made me believe in the power, and I was like, wow, there's something to this.
That's it. Awesome. Yeah, I can't say I had any moments like that while I was playing around with them, but that's because like it's hard because I just didn't understand any of my research. So I was like, am I doing this right? And also like the meanings between the two different decks I meant were totally different. So I was like,
oh really?
And like not all the cards, most of the cards were the same, but some of them were different. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. They have to be all uniform meanings. Like the symbology can be different, but I don't see how you can like do this if the two decks mean different things. So then I was like, I'm just gonna focus on the Rider-Waite one because that's the one that everyone uses.
Kind of the original, yeah. I mean, I actually joined a Facebook group, which is Learn Tarot Facebook group. If you just put into Facebook Learn Tarot, it will come up.
Makes sense.
It's a massive group. And I was just on that. I haven't ever posted anything in it, and maybe I should have, but I've just been sort of looking at other people's interpretations of their readings, and that's been really helpful. And yeah, some people have some bizarre decks, and it's really difficult to sort of understand the meaning behind them because they are so different. Like some even have completely different suits, like the suit of the moon.
Yeah.
And like what does that equate to? Like what is that meant to be? Is that cups maybe? Like what is that? And it's really difficult to sort of tell that from the different symbology and terminology inside that deck.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I'm starting to get the idea that tarot is more. It's a lot more. There's no. I guess there is standard rules, like you should have these many decks and cups, and this is what this symbolizes. But there's a lot of like, because with all the different decks and all the different inspirations and all the different interpretations, it doesn't have to be uniform all the way through for like everybody.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Everyone can have their own unique take on a card or like interpret a card their own way.
I think so. I think it's really difficult to sort of like put one card down to one particular meaning because obviously there's so many different meanings and everyone has a different one, so it's really difficult to sort of to pick But if I had to pick, I would go with the original because, you know, obviously that's the one that most of the other decks spill off of, I suppose.
Yeah, which is funny because like when he was in the book, he was like, "This will be the definitive tarot cards. No one has to make another deck again. This is gonna be the end all and be all." And then that like it's like Alan Moore being like, "I'm gonna write Watchmen. This will be the end of all comic book stories."
Do you think that?
Yeah, he was like, "Well, this is the comic book superheroes kind of dismantled. So once I've done this, there doesn't need to be any more superhero stories."
Was he like horrified when they were?
Yeah, essentially, he was like, "Oh no, everyone's taking my work and it's all and now they're all doing Watchmen just with actual super. I hate this so much."
He was like, "Guys, I did it for you. You don't have to do this anymore."
He is so stupid though, because he was like, Watchmen's kind of proving that if heroes were real, then they'd all be kind of like sexual freaks and rapists and just insane power hungry madmen. And it's like, yeah, probably, but you know, that doesn't mean superheroes can't exist in the comic book form because they're not real. Like,
yeah, and also, like, this is why we don't have them in real life.
Yeah.
Like, we want to enjoy the fantasy. That's why it's written.
Dragons couldn't be real, but like, you
We
know.
all enjoy reading about them.
Exactly. You know, just sit there and be like, well, this could exist in the real one. But it's also kind of the same with Robert Waite, where he was like, I'm going to do a definitive thing so no one has to make one again. And then you're like, oh, of course people are going to like interpret your definitivism as something
Yeah, well,
else.
looking at into it from a different
And
spotlight.
lifting
Yeah.
from and like being inspired by, and like you can't end something. All you can do is add to it, even if you think like this is the definitive. And I guess still is in the sense that this is the one everyone refers back to. And if like there's like teaching courses, it's probably going to be using that one as a blueprint. But you know, you don't use a blueprint and then live in the blueprint. You build a house off of it.
That's very true. I like that analogy. I actually bought that deck. It's not specifically that one, but my friend who also is into tarot cards, was into the idea of tarot cards. She's had a few readings before, and she asked me to do her reading, and she was really interested into it. It was her birthday, so I bought her a deck, and she has that deck now, so it's really good. Apparently, that's it. You should always gift your first deck, or you should find your first deck, or a deck. You should kind of accept it from someone else, or come to you out of some weird scenario.
Yeah,
so,
I remember reading that. I was like, well,
I bought mine from Amazon.
should have made my mum buy it for me off Amazon. Like, Mum, go on Amazon and buy me this, and then be like, hey, it's a gift.
That's it, and be like, I'm giving this to you, obviously, free of charge.
So, were there any cards that like stood out to you, or like?
I like a lot of the different cards. I think when in the book, the Lightseer's Tarot, the little book in front of it, it says that you should look for each card and draw out one of the ones that appeals to you the most.
Yeah.
And that can be your light card, and you'll bring out your shadow card, which is your reversal card. So it should be one that you feel very uneasy with,
Yeah.
and you need to sit with, and one that you feel very likened to, and that will sort of be your guiding star. And I did this so long ago, I can't actually remember who I picked, but I think the Queen of Cups was my light card.
Yeah.
And then I think it was the Nine of Swords, which, wow, these cards have literally just dropped out at me. I found those within 2 seconds. But the Nine of Swords, that was my shadow card.
Yeah.
And honestly, I just did it from the imagery, but the Nine of Swords is a woman, like, she looks terrified, crying in a field with a pillow. She's wearing a red dress. All these crows are circling above her. It's night. It just looks like a sort of awful scene. And then the Queen of Cups is just, she's beautiful. She's having a great time. She's got she's in the water. She's half in, half out of the water. She's looking up. She's got this sort of like halo effect going on around her. Like, she looks very imperial, but then also like very kind and passionate and loving at the same time. So those are the 2 cards that stood out for me in particular. I don't know if you have any that stood out for you.
Not so much. I liked the Death and the Devil card because they looked cool, but
They
that was
do look
about
cool.
as far as I went in that one. Can you remember like what the meanings of all 72 cards are? Do you still have? Because I was trying to like play games with myself to like be like
Really? Memorize them
yeah.
all. Oh my god! Wow.
It didn't work.
No,
So-
I was gonna say. I mean, I tried to
I
remember.
can probably remember what all the 22 major ones are.
Yeah, I'm gonna say like the major ones are easier for me to remember. And if we're talking about the major arcana, that's probably something that we should talk about the Fool's Journey as well. Because that falls very much
We should also
that.
maybe just clarify what the major and minor arcana are.
That's true. So in tarot cards, there are 78 different cards, and then you have the 21 major arcana. I believe it's 21, and then the rest are the minor arcana. And the minor arcana are split up into suits, and that is the suit of cups, the suit of swords, the suit of wands, and the suit of pentacles. And they each have court cards associated with those particular suits. So you have pages, knights, kings, and queens. And they all sort of have associated meanings over the different suits. So suits will mean their own thing. So such as pentacles is very much about sort of material possessions, money, wealth, having your feet on the ground. It's an earth element.
Yeah, I was going to say they all have like a different element. Is like, I think it's cups is fire, isn't it?
No, cups is water.
Damn it.
Wands is fire.
Right. And
pentacles is earth. And swords is air.
Right. And swords is kind of the bad one from my research.
I feel that there are a lot of negative connotations in the sword stack. However, also swords has the meanings of intelligence as well, and sort of forward thinking. And so I think it's not necessarily like a bad suit, it's just like a different interpretation of different meanings and certain ideas. So you have the different, so all of the kings will mean like sort of, I guess, what would you say?
The kings, to me, what I like consider to be kind of the end of the journey. So like, the king of cups, like the cups is the emotional one, isn't it?
Yes.
So like the king of cups was like, your emotions are under control and you know them and you're in control of them and it's all good.
Yeah. There he is. King of cups.
So like, that's awesome.
I like him. He's a good card.
Yeah, he looks like he'd be fun to smoke weed with.
He looks very chill. I gotta say that he does look very chill. And I like the idea of that, of being like kind of master of your own kingdom.
Yeah.
You got no one to sort of like look down on you. You are the father and the keeper of your land.
Yeah.
And I think that's very.
But that's right, isn't it? Like, I'm not wrong. The king of cups, like each king is kind of like the end of the journey of that suit of cards. So like,
I wouldn't necessarily say it's the end of the journey, because I guess so many cards mean the start of the journey and then the end of the journey. I guess you could definitely say that, because obviously the king is the last in that particular suit, whereas the ace is the beginning.
But it also feels like, and all the kings, they had like mastery over that particular thing.
That's it. Like, you have reached a certain level, which means that you are sort of master of your kingdom. But then by the same token, the king and the queen, obviously there's that male and female energy associated with each one, and male being the sort of logical, more father figure, and the queen being very much a sort of like more emotional and more caring figure, more maternal. So I think that they are equals, but they are coming at it from different sort of sides, I suppose.
Oh, that actually relates to one of my few bits of research that I understood, because most of my research like went on about the Kabbalah, and there's two sides of the Kabbalah. There's like the sword, there's the flaming sword down the middle. Maybe I should explain what the Kabbalah is.
Yeah, go back to the beginning, because I have no idea what you're talking about.
I don't either, really, so this is going to be a mess.
That's what I mean. Your research was so in-depth and so like strange in comparison to mine, where I felt mine was very straightforward, and it just talked about the meaning of the cards, and you're talking about like the Kabbalah and talking to God.
Mine was too in-depth. I didn't grasp any of it. It's like I was a frog and I was in a pond, and I couldn't, like, the pond was so deep that when I got like an inch down, I was like, oh my god, the pressure, I can't understand this. I need to go back to the top and get some air. The Kabbalah, from what I understand it, is the blueprint of the universe and the human psyche. And you can move up and through the Kabbalah. So there's the paths through the Kabbalah, which each tarot major arcana card represents. And there's the static states of being, which are called sephiroths, which each of some of the minor arcana cards represent, because they're more static. So like, I think it was like the major arcana cards kind of always represent like movement and a journey, well, they're more like mean what they mean. And then and this is a blueprint of the universe, or the blueprint of how to become a god, or like become one with God spiritually, blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
I don't know. I might be wrong on all of this. It was very confusingly written.
We
but
have
there's
a
also
Kabbalah episode at some point, so we'll know then.
Maybe. Even then. And then there's the left side of the Kabbalah, which is the female energy, and then there's the right side, which is the male energy, and then going down the middle of the Kabbalah is the flaming sword, which I think is like the creation energy of the universe.
I love how meta it is. It's crazy.
I don't understand. So my point, which I was trying to get to, was that, yes, the cards in the Kabbalah do represent feminine, but like there's not even feminine as in like the idea that of feminine that as we have it.
Okay.
It's more like feminine and masculine in the sense of like these big universal concepts.
Oh,
of like
okay.
that masculine means control and strength and hard, or feminine's more like, I mean, it's more like a creation, love.
Oh, okay. Compassionate.
Yeah, so-
like...
Yeah, stuff like that.
I guess that makes sense in the sense of the cards as well, because I wouldn't say like only females can draw the queen, because that's ridiculous. You know, like obviously you can be either or any gender and still have like masculine and feminine parts to you.
And the idea is that you're meant to like move through each of the Sephiras, which are like, if you look at the Kabbalah, it's like circles and then little paths between the circles, and you're meant to move through each of the circles to like eventually become unity with God. But it's not like you're only meant, like as a male, you're only meant to like go through a certain path where you're only moving through the masculine Sephiras. So you have to like kind of move through all of them. So yeah, it's not, like, I think the whole idea is it's not like feminine, masculine aren't absolutely, like, you're not meant to be like separate sides of the coin where they never like touch. They're meant to be both
the same side of the same coin. Yeah. Different sides of the same coin, so that it all continues. And that's the thing, you wouldn't say like, oh yeah, no, I am completely worldly, but I've only ever done masculine things. That makes no sense. Like obviously to be a full and whole person, you need to experience both sides of both of the emotions and both of, genders attributing to both.
And again, I don't even know in it if it's even that much to do with gender. It's just, I think that's just
ideas. I understand. Ideas. Ideas of a particular gender and what their gender could mean.
Yeah.
If it was a metaphor, rather than it being like, oh, you're a woman, do you like?
Yeah. I don't think it's like that. It's more of a. It's so confusing.
This is very confusing. I feel like both of us are talking about shit we don't understand right now.
There's 100 pages on the Kabbalah, and it didn't. Like, if anyone who listens to this and knows about the Kabbalah, please don't like email or at me telling me that I'm an idiot, because I know, I'm aware, I get it, I'm on board, I am very stupid, but this was so confusing.
We haven't got into it yet. When we get into that episode, we'll try.
And fail. I'm saying I'm positive we'll fail. There's so much to it. It's honestly, it's like fucking trying to learn. It's like trying to learn about the Kabbalah from the like 100 pages I read. Is the only thing I can compare it to was being back in my physics class, where it was like, what do you mean speed means motion times whatever? I don't understand. Why is everything in a triangle? I don't. Yeah. Anywho.
Well, what a sidebar. Into the Kabbalah. So I guess we were talking about the suits. So, king, we're very worldly. Queen, very worldly, but in a sort of compassionate sense.
Did we ever say what the difference between the major and the minor were?
I wanted to get to that, yeah.
Okay,
so
cool.
we sort of started talking about like the court cards. And there's the knight, which means kind of mean like direct and forward action, and then the page, which is sort of like beginning something new and trying to learn something. And those are sort of relevant to each of their suits. Yeah, so I guess going from 1 to 10, I guess 1 is meant to be sort of like the start of something new and fresh. And then I've almost, like, to my research, 10 is too much.
Yeah.
It's like you've gone beyond the point of comfort, and that you have too much of something, and you're actually trying to sort of aim for, and what the book that I read, Kitchen Table Tarot, she said that 9 3/4 was a good card to aim for, even though obviously that doesn't exist. But for Harry Potter fans out there, 9 3/4, platform 9 3/4, the card 9 3/4 is a great place to sort of aim for, because you've reached a point of sort of greatness from 9 that you haven't fulfilled. You're always still working towards something, whereas a 10 I feel is like too much of everything.
Yeah, makes sense. Yep, that's also what I got, I think.
Excellent. And then but obviously trials and tribulations between the sort of 1 and the 10. So yeah, it's obviously sort of dependent on sort of where you are within the.
One thing I definitely picked out is that, like, my God, these tarot cards there's a lot in them. Like, it's not like I thought it was gonna kind of be like playing cards where you could be like, here's what I mean, like, you just assign meaning to each card and you pick it up and you're like, here's what this means. But like, there's so many like weird stories and narrative journeys going on in the cards, and like each person really does represent something. And like, to talking about the narrative journey, I wanted us to bring up the Fool's Journey, which I thought was a cool idea, which you can talk more about.
Yeah, no. So the Fool's Journey, the 0 card in the deck. So I guess the first card in the deck is the Fool. And the Fool is basically the sort of you card, I suppose. It's someone who's naive, who's starting a new journey, who doesn't quite know what they're in for yet. Which,
coming back to my Kabbalah thing, is you're the Fool starting at the beginning of the journey to godhood, and then you move through each of the Sephram.
Oh, right, wow.
And then by the end, you are like one with God. So that, I think, is another reason why the Kabbalah and the tarot cards have like such in people's minds overlap, because again, at both parts you start as like very basic.
Yeah, and then you learn as you walk through the cards. So the Fool is meant to go into like the first card, which is the Magician, and then from the Magician he learns how to manifest all these different ways of wisdom of how to center himself. And then he meets all these different characters along the journey. So I think is 2 the High Priestess, I believe.
Yeah, or the Empress. Hold on.
No, it is a High Priestess. I was correct. So 2 is the High Priestess.
He's the Empress, damn it.
Sort of means, I guess, the subconscious and looking inward and being very sort of powerful within your own intellect and your own inner psyche.
I also kind of think the whole idea of the Fool's Journey is kind of cool from like just a physical standpoint, because obviously when you shuffle the deck, the Fool's getting moved through the deck. So he's always like on a physical journey.
That is very true. I didn't even think of that. That's very cool. Yes, number 3 is the Empress, which means sort of divine femininity and fertility and motherhood and unity and compassion and abundance. I won't list all of them because there's literally 21 of them and then more. So it's probably not best like listing the meanings of each card.
We really agreed that we didn't want this episode to be like, here's number 1 mean through 36, what one's that, 9 or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, yes, the idea is that the Fool will go through all these different trials and tribulations, meeting all these different people. I've seen it likened to the Fool having many different doors in front of him or her, and being able to go through each door and experience what that card has for them, and then to come out again and then to experience the next door. And some of the cards are very destructive and very like difficult. You know, that you have cards such as the Tower, which just means ultimate death and destruction. So like complete overwhelming, your world being turned upside down. I think in the Wait Rider deck, it's like electric bolts coming down from the sky, and the tower's falling over, and people are falling to their death. You know, it's like a hugely uplift. No, what's the word?
Upheaval.
Yes, that's it. Furious upheaval. And then again, you have like cards like Death and the Devil, which again we've briefly touched on, but. And also, it's probably worth saying at this stage, death doesn't actually mean death. Death generally means a metamorphosis and a change, and a big change that's coming in your life or has come in your life, rather than death itself.
Yeah, it's the end of one stage and the beginning of another, so the death of a self almost, and then a removal into the other phase.
Yeah, a rebirth. And actually in the Lightseers deck, it is actually called Death/Rebirth, which I thought was actually a quite nice...
Comforting.
Yeah, it is. It's a very nice feeling deck. It doesn't even the Ten of Swords is like a nice card, sort of like moving on to new pastures, trying to find healing through the trauma that person experienced. Whereas I think in the Wake Rider deck, a Ten of Swords is literally someone being stabbed by 10 swords.
Yeah, that reminds me. I think it's more like, I think in the Wake Rider deck, it's like betrayal. It symbolises betrayal and overwork.
That makes sense.
Let me have a quick look what it does. Ten of Swords. Oh no, it's a way.
Is it?
Yeah, the 10 resembles... Wait, hold on. I'm on the wrong thing. Yeah, it's on Cups.
Oh yeah, no, Cups would be very nice. Set of Swords is more.
You keep talking while I'm trying to find this.
Okay, so in the Ten of Swords, my little book says painful endings, crisis, being stabbed in the back, an opportunity to find deep healing, and an opportunity to find hope and resilience.
Yeah, that's essentially exactly what mine is, apart from all the positive stuff at the end.
I mean, but the imagery on my card is a woman. She's in the desert. The sort of birds are hovering above her, but she is turning away from the sort of camera that is the card, and she's looking towards the sun, as in she is able to sort of find that healing and find sort of redemption from that trauma. And
Well, it's not that different in mine. Mine is the 10 indicates a major disaster or betrayal. It warns using the victim mentality to dwell in the past lights. So I think it also means that something terrible is going to happen, or like has happened in the past, but it's also a way to find a way. It's showing that you need to find a way to move past that and not let it consume your life.
I totally agree. And also that's something that I learned from the Kitchen Table Tarot book, because she puts a lot of emphasis on actually reading and reading for other people. And something that she will always say is not to be so callous with the cards. So she gives an anecdote about she's always read cards, like since she was a teenager, but she used to do it for sort of like weed money, basically, and she used to like kind of gather.
That's why most of my friends do anything.
So she'd like gather these friends, like, you know, or just do it at parties, you know, and she'd ask for like, you know, $5 or whatever. Or I guess it was American, so $5.
Oh, is it bad that like I was like, when I hang out with someone I just don't have anything to say to? When I get a little bit better, I might just bring tarot cards so I can like chill at the evening.
Oh my god, do it! I mean, you get so many interesting people and things to talk about as well. Yeah, so she used to do it like for $5 a pop, that sort of thing, and then she would so get these people over, and then she drew a free cards for this woman, and then she was like, "Ha, your boyfriend's cheating on you," type thing. Yeah, I know. So and then she said it so like you know, like, oh, this is what it is, you know, this is black and white type thing, and because she saw it in the cards, and because the cards spoke to her, and because she had that connection with the cards, she knew it was true.
If this was at uni, it's probably a safe bet that he probably was anyway.
I mean, apparently, I don't think I'd ever learn from that story whether he was or not. I mean, I kind of expect he was from the way that she wrote it, but it was kind of the fact that she was so brash with it and was kind of like, ha, I know this thing about you, ha, type thing. It was like, oh, but really, it was that girl's life, you know, her whole like life was being turned upside down because her boyfriend was cheating on her, and that's a really horrible and awful thing to discover in any way. So yeah, I think that was her sort of whole resolution, is even when you do get a card like the 10 of Swords, and it is something really terrible, you know, and like the Tower, you know, it's not about, oh, you know, this is really horrible and destructive, and, you know, this, you're never going to come back from this type thing. It's all about phrasing it in a certain way, which is like, hard times are coming. You're not going to come out of this unscathed, but you will come out of this, and you are able to look beyond this, and there is light at the end of the tunnel. And to do reading in that way so that there is hope, instead of being all doom and gloom and like, oh shit, better watch out where you can't because this is what's going to happen to you type thing. You know, it's all about sort of coming out of that and healing.
Do you feel like all the cards, for the most part, probably are more leaning towards positivity than negativity?
Yeah.
They're all about a journey and about like coming to a conclusion and learning new information. Like a lot of the cards' meanings are like, you might discover this and this. Also, can I just talk about One Piece for like 2 seconds?
Sure.
I just want to, like, there's a villain in One Piece who like uses tarot cards, and then he got defeated at the end of this major arc. And anyway, the last card he drew was the Tower card, And like this is
the tower.
Yeah.
Oh right, I thought you said the tarot card. And
No.
I was like, wait, what?
And this is before I was learning about tarot cards. So like I read it, and this is even before we started doing the podcast or like talking about the podcast. And I was like, I wonder if that's right. I was like, I'll never have a way of knowing. And
I don't have Google or the internet at my fingertips.
He said that the tower card was it symbolized an upheaval, and there was going to be a lot of trauma and hardships to become, but eventually it was going to move into a new world. And then I was like, oh, it's cool that the author of One Piece did so much research on tarot to like get that kind of nailed.
That's really cool.
Yeah, One Piece is awesome.
I need to
No one will.
watch it, but there are far too many episodes for me to get invested in.
Also, the anime's terrible. No one should watch it, but yeah. It's really good.
You're very of an anime snob. I think we need to sort of like president that with this conversation.
It's just unwatchable because like
Unwatchable. The one that made it was unwatchable. You say that about like My Hero Academia as well. It's like, oh, it's unwatchable.
the 5th season was so bad. It's like
Of One Piece or My Hero?
One Piece doesn't even do seasons. I mean, this is why it's unwatchable. It's because it comes out every single week. So, like, basically, all it is recaps and recuts and re-edits and like of other episodes where maybe they'll get like one new scene in every single episode.
Really?
And like One Piece is kind of like Looney Tunes. Is like the draw of it is the energy and the like vibrantness and the like quick pace of every chapter. Like by the time you're in chapter, you're dropped into this amazing world with all this imagination and it's like flung in your face. And then you watch an episode of the anime and everything is so drawn out. You're just pulling your hair out.
Oh man.
Anyway, I'm not editing this out though because people need to know that they need to read One Piece and not watch the anime. And also My Hero Academia, like again in season 5, and this was probably COVID's fault, but it was like recap. Everyone remembering back in an episode, you maybe get like one new scene and it sucks because I have my favorite arc and the whole thing in it, and it was butchered, and I'm angry. The tower card would represent the season 5 of My Hero Academia.
Oh man, that is some hard stuff. I think I watched like up to season 4 of My Hero Academia, so I actually should like watch that and see if it was as bad as you say it
You
is.
should read the manga. You know, it would take like I got through the season 5 manga within about 2 hours. It doesn't take that long.
Oh really? Oh okay, maybe it's worth it.
Yeah. It's really good, and you only have to pay $1.99 for Shonen Jump, and then you can read it on an app on your like tablet.
Are we getting sponsored?
Please sponsor us, Shonen Jump, and then I can like talk about.
I feel like that's product placement, and I'm not paying us any money.
And then I can like talk about Luffy and the ad and stuff.
Oh man, we should do like a fake ad for them.
Yes, and then they will sponsor us. We'll talk about that next. Anyway, what was my point?
I don't know. The tower card.
Yeah, and that's the major arcana.
That is the major arcana. It ends with the world, which is sort of meant to be like worldliness, knownness, being able to understand the world around you, being at one and at peace with everything. Sort of come full circle, as it were.
In JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, the world is a stand.
You did that because I rolled my eyes because we were talking about anime.
Yeah. And it's fun because if you listen to the Japanese dub, they'll say the world funny and it became a meme. So, yeah.
I won't ask you to repeat how they sound.
No, I don't want to get this cancelled. Not racist against Japan. I watched loads of New Japan wrestling. Anyway.
Oh man, that's something that's going to definitely come out in this podcast.
Yeah.
You don't know much about us yet, listeners, but you will one day.
Yep.
Know all about us, I'm sure. And Ralph's like massive following of New Japan wrestling.
My tendency to talk about everything I'm interested in, even if it has nothing to do with anything, might be coming out right now.
It's fine.
So yeah.
It's our podcast, we can do what we want.
I think that's the major and minor arcana cards.
Should we talk about reversals?
Yeah, you might have to go into them more because I don't really understand what they were.
Okay.
Because my books explain nothing.
Yeah, it seems like your books were very
They talked about reversals, but they didn't talk about when they would come up or why they would come up or...
Oh, okay.
My books were for, experts. And
Yeah.
then, again, as well, I don't think I said this on the podcast, but I typed into Reddit, tarot card beginner books, and the stuff they gave me was not for beginners. So, fuck you, Reddit.
Don't trust Reddit.
No, I know.
So reversals, in my understanding, you can flip a deck and obviously keep it all the same way. However, so all the cards will come up face up. Yeah, face up and straight up, and you'll see the artwork in the correct way. as it was drawn. However, if you split your deck in a certain way and turn some cards upside down, you also get a reversal, which is when you pull the card up in the reverse manner of how it was drawn. So you'll get it upside down, basically. And this is, it can represent many different things. To my understanding, it either means blocked energy around that particular subject.
I got the impression it's usually like bad stuff.
Yeah, sometimes it can mean the opposite of the card, which obviously if it means you get a bad card, then it can mean like the opposite of that, so it's good. But then that's not often how I feel that it's read. I feel like it's either just a sort of like twisted or say even more sort of insidious version of that card. It basically just means a different sort of understanding and different way of seeing that particular card. So let me just draw one now. So that is a 7 of Cups. So I will read out the 7 of Cups, and then I will read out the reversal. So in the straight up way, the right way up, Light Seer, which is what it says in this deck, and it says Light Seer and Shadow Seer, which basically means right way up and reversal. So Light Seer, right way up, means fantasies, choices, wishful thinking, the allure of temptation on the path, needing to move forward without knowing the full picture and options. Whether in Shadow Seer, if I rotate this card, so it is in the the opposite position of that, it means feeling blocked by indecision, fear of making the wrong choice or being overwhelmed. So you see how the Light Seer, the sort of upright version of that, is like having options, having choices, having a lot of different room to grow into each one of these different choices. However, Shadow Seer is being overwhelmed by choice, but being too much choice, but not being able to make a choice because there's too much of it, you know? So it basically it can mean the opposite, or it can mean, just sort of like a different version of that card. We'll take another one as an example. So we've got the Chariot. I actually drew this in reverse, but we'll put it the right way just so I can see the right version of it, and I will...
Let's have like a look at the card.
Yeah, I mean, you can touch it if you want. I'm not precious. Okay. You'll get cool. The energy off of it. So I like the Chariot card. It's very beautiful in this deck. So upright, it means victory, speed and action, determination, harnessing and uniting opposing energies, success, travel, confidence, willpower and control. However, in reverse, it means lack of energetic focus, lack of self-discipline, going in the wrong direction, and a tendency to speed past the needs of others. So you can see how it's a very similar reading between sort of like light and shadow of that card. However, they mean a similar theme. They have similar themes going on around them. They mean the sort of similar actions. However, they do have sort of opposing actions in there as well.
Yes.
So that is my understanding of reversals.
I don't have too much to add for that. Basically what I got, it's cool. So it's not the opposite, but it's like the inverse. So if it's good, it becomes negative. If it's negative, it kind of becomes okay, but also negative. I don't think it necessarily changes if they're good or bad cards. I think it does, because it does make the good cards slightly worse.
Yes, I found like really good cards like the Sun.
Yeah.
We're looking at the Sun from an opposed point of view. Like it can mean like definitely not as
sunny.
It's sunny, yeah, I'm the right word for it. So in my book it says the Sun in Light Seer is joy, inspiration, success, abundance and fulfillment, exuberant creativity, positivity, love. Whereas in Shadow, it means delays, negative mindset, self-doubt, lack of confidence, a need to tune out a negative mindset and find inspiration. So it's not terrible. It's not like, oh, the Sun is so good, and now in reverse it means death type thing. It just means sort of like a sort of skewing of that. If you were to look at that card through like a sort of like distorted glass, like it would be the same-ish meaning, but almost something to focus on. So if I feel like if I get the Sun in reverse, it almost feels like I need to focus on how I can get the Sun in the correct way, up the right way.
Yeah.
And I feel that's the same with a lot of cards. Is if you're drawing them in reverse, it's like, why are you drawing them in reverse? Focus on that and try and turn them up the right way.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So this brings me to something I was curious about. What was your interpretation of the hangman? Because this is something that really confused me. Because in the first book I read, which was the Golden Dawn of Tarot, the hangman was a bad card. It was let me find it here.
That's funny because I don't necessarily see it as a bad card. But continue.
Here it says interpretation in a tarot reading. Enforced sacrifice, punishment, loss, fatal, and not voluntary suffering generally. That was the tarot in that one. But then sorry. I just had a moment because I literally just pulled out my card as in the flictorate. It's on the hangman. That's kind of amazing.
What the fuck? Sorry, when you start looking into this sort of stuff, you see all these syncrasies, and it's kind of like.
It comes all back to that chaos magic thing. That is when you're starting to dabble with magic. There's billions and billions of weird synchronicities.
Yes, very strange. It's very strange. Anyway, sorry, I'll put my I'll put a lid on that.
The Robert Waite one was the hangman is having upside down. I'm just going to read this out verbatim.
Go for it.
The hangman is hanging upside down from a live tree, gaining a different perspective of the world. He is not suffering, but is rather calm and observant. The hangman indicates the need to pause, look around, and be willing to surrender to new ideas. And that was the only one that had a major difference between the two decks that I was researching.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
So I was curious what yours said about the hangman.
But I also probably something I should have mentioned up top in the sources is I used an app called Labyrinthia, and that was quite interesting as well. Basically, so it's sort of like a memorization tool. So it will give you a card. It will give you the reading of the card and its reversal if you want to do reversals. And then you click on it and then it's basically trying to memorize what the card is, and it says, what does this card mean? And then you multiple choice answer. So it's a good tool to learn the cards basically. And I should spend more time on it actually because it is a very good app.
Does it kind of make you sad that 2 years ago you were learning Japanese? That's something that's actually useful.
No, because Japanese burned me, man. To go into a little sidebar, I learned. First off, dear listeners, I'm terrible at languages. My brain just doesn't work that way. It doesn't stop me wanting to learn them, though. I guess that's also how awfully my brain works. But anyway, so I started learning Japanese, I think, from GCSE when I was 16. I did not get my GCSE in it because I'm terrible. And then I put it down over uni, and then one of our mutual friends actually said, oh, I want to start learning Japanese. And by that point, I had been trying to pick it back up again for 2 years. And I thought I was doing okay. I was learning the kanji, I was getting back into it. I was like, yeah, no, this is cool. I totally, I'm okay at Japanese. I probably have, the understanding of a toddler, but, I still have, some understanding of Japanese. And then I've been doing it for about 2 years at this point. And then she basically comes along and does 2 weeks worth of practice, and actually she's at the same level as me. And I was fuck this shit. I was I can't. I literally just gave it up right on the spot. I was fuck this, I can't do this. This is ridiculous. Goodbye. But I didn't do it anymore. However, I have been doing Duolingo Spanish for now 500 days.
That's pretty awesome.
It is.
Spanish also seems more achievable than Japanese.
I also go to places that speak Spanish way more than I go to places that speak Japanese, which is never. So, I've at least been to a few Spanish islands where I've never been to Japan. Although I'd love to go to Japan.
Yeah, me too. Patreon us so we can.
Yeah, that's it.
Go to Japan.
We don't have Patreon yet, but when we get to that level.
Keep this in mind.
Hell yeah, we can do tarot reading in Japan.
Yeah, we won't spend any of the Patreon money on making the podcast better.
Or investing in ourselves.
Yeah, no, we do go to Japan. But then maybe there's that Japanese religion where it's they believe Shintoism, where there's lots of creatures and nature and stuff.
Oh,
that would be a really cool thing to do a podcast about. So we could go over there and do that.
That would be cool. We should make an episode on that.
Yeah, sometime.
What was I talking about before I went on a tangent?
I don't really know. Little memorizations, an app or whatever.
Oh yes, there was an app. Oh yes, and one of because the Hangman is actually one of the beginning cards in the Major Arcana. That came up a lot.
Yeah.
And I just thought that card meant patience.
Yeah.
As in it just meant sitting, observing,
yeah,
watching.
That would be in line with the Robert Ryder Waite
deck.
Yeah.
That's what I felt. How that's what that card meant to me. I didn't feel like I had a negative connotation at all. Because also, whenever I see a picture of the Hangman, he's always hanging. Oh, in this one, he's like hanging from some kind of like yoga like strap thing. and I think in the one that I saw that you briefly pulled out,
he looks so chilled.
Yeah, that's it. He looked like cool, like he's just hanging there. Like he's not. Yeah, there you go. He's just hanging upside down, loving life. Yeah, he's not like hanged by the neck.
Yeah.
Which when you say like hanged man, you kind of think like, oh yeah, no, he's dead. But it's like no. It's the hanged man, but he's alive. He's just like chilling.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting method of saying like, oh, there's actually quite a different interpretation between each card.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's interesting.
I also think the one in the Golden Dawn Tower are more used for like ritual magic. Like we're getting back into the sphere of like actual magic, where the Robert Rider-Waite-Smith isn't so much like this can be used for like there's like I was reading through it and it's like banishing rituals and stuff. I was like, hey, this like links back to my chaos magic research.
Yeah.
But like the Robert Rider-Smith book wasn't so much like about that. So I guess they maybe changed the meaning a little bit for like each ritual.
It's interesting because like I said on the Facebook, there's a lot of different decks that actually have lots of different meanings. And something that I wanted to research for this but didn't get time to was oracle cards.
Yeah,
but my understanding of oracle cards is that they are like tarot cards, but their meaning is a lot more straightforward, I suppose. Like you draw a card and it literally will say what it means on the card. And that's not to say that it's like any inferior or anything to tarot cards. It's just a different way of sort of interpreting meaning.
Yeah.
So generally oracle cards are bigger and they're less cards than the 78 that you get in a tarot deck, but they also have like different meanings and sort of different associations with those particular cards that don't necessarily resonate through to the tarot.
Yeah.
So it's just a different way of like interpreting meaning. And I was meaning to get some actually, and I think I will if I see a good deck around at some point. I think I will actually get some. But there's so many, and I was thinking like, oh no, what if I make the wrong choice, or what if I get the wrong ones? And I'm thinking like, yeah, no, maybe I would like an oracle card deck, but not right now. And also, I just love my deck so much. I love my tarot cards, and honestly, I don't necessarily see myself getting another deck at this point in time because I'm kind of like, I just love them so much. They're so awesome.
I really wanted to like research more of the Aleister Crowley Thoth cards, or like, which I just run out of time on and couldn't do.
We should definitely maybe look into that as a mini episode or potentially.
I'm pretty sure we could just do a full episode on that. Like, there's so much to it. Like, you have to read like at least 2 books to understand it. Apparently.
Oh bloody hell! That sounds like a lot.
But I wanted to do that. But yeah, I just ran out of time. So even it's interesting. Like even as we go through it, we're still again like all of this stuff. It feels like every time I read 3 books on chaos magic and I read 3 books on tarot cards, and you've read 2 books and a whole YouTube series on tarot cards.
Yeah.
And I still feel like I'm only like scratching the surface of all the symbolism and all the meanings.
Yeah, exactly. I really feel like there is so much more to learn about it, but then I feel like I will want to learn about this in time rather than like, quick short bursts, because I do really love it. I do really love it. Is there anything else you want to particularly like cover when it comes to tarot cards?
No, I think we've been through everything. It's been kind of a more freewheeling episode than sometimes.
I liked it. It's cool.
Yeah, it's been fun.
I was thinking like we could do each other readings.
Yeah, I was going to say that should be a mini episode.
Oh, okay. Well, check back next time for a mini episode on when we do each other's readings, I suppose.
So to sum up, like I think like each time we were going to tend to like say at the end of the episode whether like we believe in this stuff more or less, and if we're going to keep with it, and how much of a believer it made us. So I guess if you've been like listening to the podcast, you can kind of get Caz's answer.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's really interesting. I've never really been into something magical before, and I really feel that tarot cards. But they resonate with me, and I'm not going to be like one of those people who like fight to the death on it, or like I'm going to have like a keyboard warrior argument with someone over the internet about how amazing tarot cards are and like how they should totally 100% believe in them. But for me, I love them, and I think they're very cool. They have a lot of energy associated with them. I personally like the messages that they give off, and I really enjoy using them, and I really enjoy doing readings on them, and I love it. I think I'm going to continue. I think I believe in it, and I think I'm definitely going to continue using tarot cards.
Awesome.
How about you?
I probably believe in it, but I don't understand why. because I didn't understand any of my research. I'm definitely going to keep looking into it. And I really want to start from a much more basic place and then work my way up. But for me, like, because as I've said, my research was so confusing. It's like I'm looking at something I really don't understand, but it annoys me because I know the stuff there that's really interesting and cool. So I would like to spend maybe the next 10 years trying to get to a place where I grasp it. Because I really... There's something about the cards that, like, whenever I hold them, I'm like, these feel like something to me.
Yeah, they feel like, there's weight to them.
Yeah. And that feel like the symbolism. Like, when you read through, like, the Golden Dawn, the Tower, but, like, the amount of symbolism they have put into each and every card is just incredible. And, like, each one feels, like, so thought and power and meditated on, and I think that's really cool. So I guess, I do, for the reasons we said earlier, like as psychological tools to uncover new ways of knowledge, and like even the Kabbalah thing, which is very heady and very out there, as like a way of like transversing the human condition and like trying to move forward through to like inner spiritualism. I can see that they could even work for that in a weird way. So I'm going to spend more time in my free time researching them, and I am going to try and get better at like readings and like stuff like that. So I guess this has been overall a fairly positive experience for both of us.
I think so, yeah. It's definitely been... I mean, I appreciate you didn't have such a great time with the research aspect of it, but it still seems like you have the kind of the passion and the positivity there. So
yeah, it's not so much I didn't have a great time, I had a confusing time.
Yeah.
But that can sometimes be exciting when you're reading about something you really don't understand and like, but you want to.
Yeah, definitely. Like it feels like you even though you don't understand it and it may have been like very confusing while you've been reading it, you still want to read about it more.
Yeah, and I still want to understand it because it wasn't like I hate this, I don't understand it, fuck this.
Which is kind of my base reaction to things I don't understand and I don't get immediately. So hopefully I can overcome that in like future episodes.
Yeah, it's more like, man, I'm out of my depth on something, so I want to be, but it's something I'm interested in, so I want to be within my depth. So I guess what I need to do is learn how to swim.
Oh, what a good analogy.
Yeah. So
it's like you've done a creative writing degree or something.
But I didn't.
You did though?
No, I did an English degree.
Oh. English degree. That's
Shows
shows how well I know you.
Yeah, they're both
best
absolutely useless, so it's fine.
That's all right. Sorry, I got your degree wrong. Even though we literally spent all of uni together.
Yeah, again, they're both useless, so who cares? It's fine. Anyway, so I guess that's it for this episode.
It is. We have to choose what we're going to do on the next big episode.
Yeah, we do.
I chose last time. You should choose this time.
I am so torn because there is part of me that wants to be like the Kabbalah because that seems to be popping up an awful lot.
It has in the last two episodes, yeah.
But then I just don't want to.
Fair enough. It does seem like a lot.
Yeah. So I was thinking maybe we could do the zodiac signs, like Aquarius. That's the zodiac signs, right?
Yeah, astrology.
Yeah. Because in my that's obviously something that's so controversial and so many people ridicule. But in my tarot research, the zodiac signs kept coming up a lot, and the symbology was important to a lot of the cards. So I would like to understand it from maybe more of a academic level and what the symbology represents in magic and chaos magic and that kind of thing. And then maybe we can get everyone yelling at us that we're fucking idiots for believing in star signs. But I really,
that sounds great. Let's do it.
Strongly don't believe in horoscopes, but apparently the symbology is quite important to a lot of these underpinnings of a lot of this stuff. Anyway.
Yeah, I totally get that, and honestly, I know that there's a lot of mysticism around it that I'm not strictly believing in, but by the same token, I do feel like I am my star sign. The way that it talks about it, I'm like, oh no, that is me. But then I'm like, oh, but if I was something else, would I be that? I guess it would be a really fun little challenge for the listeners for them to guess what our star signs are for next episode. That would be fun.
Yeah, that would be. So yeah, I think that's probably my pick.
That would be cool. When I do an Instagram post, I can ask what people think our star signs are.
Doesn't Instagram have your birthday on? I guess it doesn't.
No, not if you make a new one.
Cool.
Which I will be doing. Thank you very much, everyone. This has been Journey into the Strange. I'm Caz.
I'm Ralph.
And thank you very much for joining us.
Keep on stranging.
Keep on stranging. I like that.
Yeah.
We should use that.
Yeah, it could be a tagline.
I like it.
Bye.
Bye.